Welcome to the second Builderment video in my speedrun series here. As I alluded to in the previous video, I will run through two computers in what I thought was that video, but didn't make it through because of the explanations on the blueprints and the time to first item. But we will start with that in this video here. So let's get things going. Any feedback you have on the previous video or on this one, just let me know. I'm new to YouTube, so any tips or tricks, I'm happy to listen. Thank you. So we'll get started right away here. We'll click in or type in our new or our usual code BAPJ1, all lowercase, as we get started with our new playthrough here. The timing should roughly follow what we had in the old one, hopefully. So I've reorganized my blueprints from 1 through 78, as you can see here, starting with 1, 2, and 3. Just dropping in a bunch of excavators for wood logs here and getting those started up into a research center. As those collect, we'll reorganize the blueprints by just clicking on edit and then saving them again, which reorganizes it to the top. So we'll keep doing that as we go through to make sure that we can pick them up quickly at the top of our list, and we don't have to scroll or search for the ones that we need. So just hovering here to get those 10 in, then picking up the next blueprint, dropping that one in, so now we can start looking at planks. So we'll drop those in and then wait again. Well, though we don't wait for this one, we're going to use our gems here to speed up some of this research. So I'm just selected these three to use for gems. I know we only have 100 gems, but it seems silly not to use them since we have them anyway. So I just completed the most important one is the splitters and the belts. So the splitters and the underground belt, sorry, so that we can use them in this setup right away for our wire. The other ones are, I guess, saving us some time, but in the end it's only 1 or 2 minutes, I think, when I did it manually before, so I might as well use it since we have them available. So we just reorganized again to get the next ones ready, and now it's a little bit of time waiting for a save up. So we're closing in on the 600 here that we need for our magnet setup. So we're going to move the research center to the wood frame so that we have space to connect our belt to the top of the wire production there to siphon that into our starter base. And there we go. We're just getting the right money there and connecting that in. Now I do move it kind of far away a little bit, but I just want to get the base started properly without getting interfered there by the iron ore. So now the next big save up is for 700 for ingot setup, and I've adjusted the blueprint for this already to just get enough ingots for the 3 magnet production that we're going to set up initially, and then adding the rest of the sort of the ore patch there to the plate setup. It'll just delay it a little bit right now for this run through. It might save up some time. It'll get us to magnets earlier, but it also doesn't have the same strength in terms of ingot production, which I think is fine, but we'll see how that plays out in the next playthrough, in other playthroughs. But for now, we'll just wait for that and then get things going after that. again, we're ping-ponging back and forth from wood frames to siphoning up some wires there. And now we're closing in on the 700. I'm going to get my blueprint ready to paste in our ingot production. We can try to save up for this before the wires get there, so we have a nice, smoother sort of takeover there from getting money from the wood frames to getting money from magnets. But this is something that will change in the next playthrough, I think. So now that that's set, we'll have to accumulate some ingots there before the magnet starts. We'll still put the research center on wood frames. I'll again ping pong it back to wires when needed. The wires just feel like they accumulate faster. They produce more, obviously, but it's also less money per. I think it's still faster to keep them on there, but I just want to keep the wood frame production going there and not block that up, because it's basically free money sitting there. So we'll reorganize our blueprints here and getting ready for stone, silicon, and then plates. So the stone production I'll set up just before I'm actually able to finish the research on the magnet side, just so that I have some stone waiting there for me and I don't have to wait for the research as long. So I'll get that set up once I have the right gold there. Plopping that in once we get to our required gold amount. And now that can accumulate. It'll sit there for a bit, but that's fine. We're just waiting for the electromagnets to flow in there. And as we're waiting for that, once we get to 160, I believe it is, every time, we'll pop in another production facility there, which I probably should have done earlier than I'm doing here. So we're back and forth still with the research center now to magnets, just to make sure that we keep that gold flowing, because the gold is just such a constraint in the early game here, and I'm always thinking of different ways to get as much gold in as possible. Sometimes it is worth it to move it to the lower value items, but sometimes it's just better to just leave it there and get some other things ready. So we're just organizing blueprints and getting ready for an additional production facility there. So now we're past 160 here, so I'm looking at adding a couple of production facilities here. So I'll plop in one more, and then waiting for the next 160 to get the third one going. And that's the third one that will stay at 3 for a long time here, because we're gonna get the research done and then essentially shut off the wire feed, because we're going to need that for the circuits. I don't have the resources available to keep this going. It's a nice gold boost to keep these going, but I just don't think it's reasonable for the resources that I need to spend on it. I've also contemplated deleting this and setting it up again later, which I might do in the next playthrough or one of the next playthroughs to see if that actually works. It's just unfortunate to have to cancel it and set it up again, but we do get the money back, and it's useful to get to research earlier if we can, but we'll figure that out in one of the next playthroughs. But at least it's an idea that I'm toying with. So now we're just waiting for the last few magnets to collect here, and then we can go into our next section here, which would be getting that stone collected, getting that research done, getting ready for silicon, and then the circuits. First we'll plop in the metal frames that we're finishing up now, but we'll do that at some point later. We'll get the research going first and then setting up the production facility. So dropping the research center there on the stone and just monitoring that until we get to the end, so we can add in the silicon. And there we go, stone is done. Moving that back to the wood frames, getting the research unlocked, and picking up the silicon production. and now that silicon's been added, we're going to look into the next steps, which will be the plates, adding the plates in at 122 gold, which again will change later on if we're putting the excavators together with this, and then picking up the belting for sort of the next step being the metal frames and the circuit setup. So after I drop in those belts, I'm just going to reorganize again for the next few steps in terms of the blueprints. Number 13 would be next here. I believe that's an extra second and third frame, a metal frame and circuits. So now we just have to wait for the silicon and copper wire research. So I will pick up the copper wires from the magnets once that research is done, or getting close to being done. I usually don't wait for the furnace research to be finished because I can pick it up anytime later on when we're producing batteries and have a lot of magnets running around, but it is important to pick these up at some point because we do use furnace tier 2 levels later on. So now I'm just getting ready here to see where I can add in the metal frames and then the circuits. I do want to finish the research first and then just jump in from there to the other research, which is the metal frames and the circuits for computers. I think it's a bit of an error here because I could have pulled in the silicone directly into there, other than again ping-ponging back to the research center. I don't think it would have changed that much, but it definitely would have saved up some time. So another note there for the next run through. And as we're closing in here on the completion of the circuitry research, you can see that I'm going to drop in the setup for the metal frames and the circuits. Now, we also do have some extra gold at this time, or some excess gold, I guess, but we will quickly use this up when we start getting into the next steps. So I wouldn't worry too much if it's accumulating a little bit. I mean, this is not very much compared to what we're accumulating in the end game, but it's good to have a little bit extra here because the cost of the blueprints start ramping up fairly heavily after these few things here. Now that we're started producing circuitries and metal frames, we're going to be looking at adding on additional factories for those. So once we get to 160 gold, we'd pick up an extra metal frames, as you can see me doing there, and then in a little bit we'll pick up extra circuits as well, and we'll probably just keep saving up there until we have 3 each, which should be supported by the current setup until later on when we're adding more resources into that line. So now with our third circuit and metal frame added, we're just waiting for the research to complete. So we're just about to unlock the furnace here. And then we'll just push into the rest of the research for the metal frames and circuits to get into a computer unlock. So the next steps after that unlock would be the heat sinks. Again, I have some issues with the heat sinks because they're kind of far away. So I've chosen the closest one to work with here. But it might not be the best. I think I've covered it later on in the playthrough by switching up the south two patches of copper ore where we're taking partially heat sinks and partial wires from that one instead of changing the one that we just tapped into wires and having to watch the belt before it runs out of heat sinks to get into wires, and it could mess up the whole thing if those walk together or bleed together, I guess. So we're closing in on our $800 and something for our heatsink belt, and that one should line up nicely with what we have going currently once we put it in the right place. There we go. I've stopped it there. I didn't push it in fully because we don't need to connect it right now, so I'm just saving up for some other add-ons first before I guess the heatsink gets to the base. We have some time. So we're just going to pick up the wood add-on here just to fully use that patch. Once we get to 342 here, we'll drop that in. And that should get us up to 4 workshops producing wood frames, which is enough for 6 metal frame machine shops. So we don't have to look at that for a while. We'll pick up some extra wood later on to get us to the 9, and it's vastly more than we need whatever we pick up at that point, but it's good to have that. So as we're saving up for the next piece of the heatsink setup there, you can see me picking up some wood frames and some metal plates there just to get some extra money in. I think the wood frames at 4 gold and the plates at 2 gold. I think the ingots are also 2, so it doesn't really add up to too much. The circuits at 10 and the metal frames at 12, I believe, are way more valuable, but you know, they're just not coming out as quickly as they will later on in the run through, so we'll just pick up whatever we can to save up for these vital pieces that we're adding on before gold starts flowing at a better rate. As we get ready for placing the first computer production set here, I'm just looking at where we are in terms of heat sinks coming in, and they're still kind of far away. And that's why we didn't pull in the whole belt initially, because we do have some time to wait for it to get to the base, and there'll be a bit of waiting here and there to get these things to the base, which is something that can be avoided by building factories out in the world a bit more and then belting back the finished product. It is an option. I might play around with that in the future, but for now this is the one I'm running, and I don't know, it seems okay, but we'll figure out later if that could be better. So we're just placing the extension belt here for the heat sinks, so once they get to the base we'll see them coming in, and then we'll get ready for some upgrades before we get into the heavier research on what is it, steel and graphite, and with that sand as well. So now that the first computer is in, we're looking at picking up some additional wires from up to the north west and belting that to the base, and that's going to get merged with the wires that we currently have to feed a full or nearly full belt into the circuit production there, so it's a bit stronger. So we just picked a blueprint here for the belt for the extra wires, and I'm just looking to connect that as we get closer on the completion of the next piece of research. So we're just going to hook this up right to the belt coming in there for my initial copper patch. And there we go with the research, so it should be good for computers. And now it's really just waiting for heatsinks to come in, and there they are. So I'll switch the hookup here from the circuits and the metal frames to the computer and get computers going. So we're approaching 400 gold here to add in our second computer. I know the feed isn't fully there yet, but it'll come. We're just going to drop in the next computer, and then we'll be a bit of a wait after that because we're going to save up for some additional silicon feed from the south patch of, I guess, stone that's there. So we're just at 1,000 here, so I'm going to pick up the silicone blueprint and drop that into the south here, and then it's again a bit of a save up for the belt that we're going to attach there to supplement the current silicone. And as you saw me checking earlier, the wires are coming. we're closing in at 1,000 again here, and this will be the next blueprint being the belt that takes the silicone addition to the base. And I will stop the video here for today at computers. The next one will get into a bit of a wait for the research for graphite and steel, and then we'll kick it off from there to get into the rest of or the next part of this video series. So thanks for watching. Again, for any comments, any suggestions, let me know. I know it's not the best audio or video, but hopefully it'll still be useful in your assistance in getting better at this game in terms of speedrunning. Thank you very much.